Jolly is a series of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games, blah blah, you know the drill by now. This one is a bit special though because it is one of the many fan games I actually haven't played at all. So instead of reliving a series like Candies or Flumties, this was a whole new experience for me. And honestly, I have to say, it has its ups and downs, but it does show a story of a developer who wasn't afraid to put himself out there and just kept improving. More than just the games themselves, I want to highlight this guy, Ivan G. He's not a talented dev or a visionary. He was, and I quote, just a kid who wanted to pursue game development for fun. To start off, for those who don't know, Jolly is a FNAF Fan Game Giant in a way, and it's also kind of a pioneer. The series started back in 2016, only 2 years after even FNAF was created. It was based off of the restaurant Jollibees, which is basically a Filipino Chuck E. Cheese from what I can see. A fast food joint that also has some mascots. This also does lead into a decent amount of copyright bullshit later on, so do remember it. Anyway, there are 4 games that still exist and 2 additional games that were originally sequels as well, but due to the aforementioned copyright bullshittery, they are now considered to not exist, aka they were wiped off of the internet, but of course, you can still find them. And I have gone through all 6 of these games, and let's talk about them in order, starting with Jolly. The game that started it all for this young developer. Released on October 4th, 2016, it follows a pretty similar formula to a lot of FNAF adjacent games by having us sit in an office trying to survive. That's it. We play as the night guard, shocking I know, and this time we are not Michael Schmidt but Mikhail Schmidt, which is just fucking hilarious. Mikhail and we have to not die to all of the animatronics, but before we go over them, we should say everything we have to say about our office first, as it is the main and only gameplay section in this first game. Our main method of defending ourselves is this light in front of our office window, and of course the door button. Every single one of the animatronics that move will come to our window, peek through, and once they decide to move from that spot, they will appear at the door and try to kill us. Pretty simple. Yeah. Also important to mention is that they're insanely fucking aggressive on every single night, and our power meter just isn't nowhere near enough. So to aid that, on our right side we have a power storage panel. On it we have a stockpile of power that we can transfer to our active power so that we don't run out. This is also finite, however, and it does not regenerate at all. In total, we have 150% power in the power bank and 100% base power. In total, that's 250% power, but I know these numbers don't mean shit to you, but it does actually impact the gameplay a lot and the entire feeling, as more often than not, you will have to go through both power sources more or less completely. It's also drained by the usual culprits such as the camera, lights, and of course, the fucking doors. We really should just start using key locks in this game. Now the final part of our office is our cameras, which are actually really fucking complicated for a FNAF fan game, especially considering it's the dev's first game. It has a whopping 16 damn cameras, with cams 1 to 5 being on the first floor alongside cam 13 for some reason, and cams 6 to 12 and 14 to 16 are on the second floor. Cam 1 is the kitchen, 2 is the cashier, 3 the dining area, 4 is the Fantasyland dining area. I know, very important to differentiate. Cam 5 and 6 are elevator entrances, and cam 7 is the main stage that houses some of our friends. Yeah. Cam 8 is a hallway. Cams 9 and 10 are party rooms 1 and 2. They also house more of our animatronic friends, which I'll introduce a bit later on. Cam 11 is parts and service. Cam 14 is the elevator, and it's really special as it leads to the lower floor, and more noticeably we can call the elevator to either one of the floors to annoy the animatronics and quite literally just like cock block their entrance, which is really fucking funny. I really like that. All the other cams are numbered air vents, so who cares about their names? Next up is to go over the things through talking about the animatronics, which there is actually quite a lot of in this game. These characters fall under the fantasy set of animatronics, and they are Jolly, who's the main mascot, Tweety, who's Cheeky 2.0, Maxie and George, which are dangerous tandem duo, and finally the not fantasy line animatronic, the Metallianet. A fucking mouthful if you ask me. There's also a red Jolly hallucination, which works basically as a Golden Freddy counterpart in this game. Yeah, that's really it. It is just a Golden Freddy clone now that I think about it more. Moving on and starting off, Night 1 animatronics, we have Tweety, George, Medley, and Ned. Fuck that name, man, I hate it. Tweety, just like most, takes a pretty straight path to our office window where we need to defend ourselves from it by shutting our door when it moves. It starts off at the main stage and goes through the elevator entrance on top floor, taking the elevator, moving to the elevator entrance on the bottom floor, into the Fantasyland dining area, through the dining area, through the cashier cam, and finally to our office window. Now this might seem like a long path, and it is, but it's also made up for by her fucking speed. Like, she's Sonic in this bitch, like she's moving. She appears so fucking often that it's genuinely worrying how much WD-40 was used on her. George, on the other hand, is a bit different, but we defend ourselves in the exact same way. Once we see him at our window, we wait for his audio cue and close the door just the same. It starts in a different location, however, known as Party Room 1, then moves through Air Vent 1, 2, 3, and 4, crucial to not forget 4, before finally making it to our delightful window, where it will inevitably be met with a slammed door. Our final threat on the first night is Medalionette. Fuck you! It works in a special way and also as a homage to the original Puppet's role in FNAF 2. It's meant to make us use the cameras. It stays in Cam 11, known as Parts in Service, not Parts and Service, Parts in Service. Anyway, it stays there for the entire night and it has its own UI for these wires. It's restrained with 4 of them, and if all 4 of them break, it'll come and pay us a visit by quote-unquote floating through the walls until it reaches our office to kill us. Yeah, to defend ourselves we must make it a big priority to fix the wires. Thankfully they have a sound cue upon breaking, but not so thankfully it is as loud as a motherfucker and very annoying. Thankfully as well, we definitely won't be hearing this for the entire game. Fuck. Moving on, night 2 we are introduced to Maxie and sometimes rarely Jolly. Jolly takes the exact same path as Tweety, moving through cams 7, 6, 14, 5, 4, 3, and 2, but Jolly is slightly different, as instead of killing us if it reaches our office, it blocks the door until we run out of power or another animatronic murders us. It also serves as the Freddy alternative for the power out sequences, which isn't really shocking as the game is called Jolly, but yeah. Moving on to Maxie now, which I don't know why I didn't talk about first. It works in a similar fashion to George, but instead starts off in Party Room 2 and goes straight to Air Vent 2, 3, and 4. 1 is forgotten here, before eventually being met with a flash to the face and a door that it ever so gently slams into. That is surprisingly all of the threats. So here's just some quick gameplay thoughts. The game has a lot done right with one major setback. Once you learn the audio cues, it becomes more so of a game of reaction speed and kind of a war of attrition, which is obviously a good thing for a FNAF game. You just have to constantly keep fixing Medalionette and closing doors on the entire rest of the cast. While it still was really fun for me personally, I think it would have been a lot better if there was a trade-off when it came to the window. For example, one pair of animatronics being shown on the window and coming to our door with a slightly more lenient timer but without a sound cue, and the other pair works by having an audio cue for when they are at the window or the door but don't show up visually. This could make it much more interesting and could maybe even incorporate using the cameras a bit more to track in what order they will be coming in. So instead of just being a glorified wire fixer, the cameras would actually have a use. But with that said, keep in mind the devil was fucking 13 when he made this shit. Back then I was still bunching on fucking crayons and dirt and watching Minecraft videos, man. So it's insanely impressive to make a game this good. Alongside the gameplay being easily fixable, the art in this game and the animatronics are also pretty well made. They do feel a bit square, especially George and Maxie. However, it does the job for a first installment graphics wise, and it's also really special because it's clearly based off of Sister Location, and Sister Location was released 3 days after this game. So he was working with teaser images and everything besides the game because the game wasn't out. So it's actually insane how well he got the art style. Like, I can't even explain it. So it's actually really insane how close to the Sister Location art style he got with just that much info. Moving on from glazing this guy though, let's talk a bit about the lore of the game, but I won't be talking about it much as I will put together an entire story segment later on in the video. The Night 1 minigame has us controlling Jolly and start on the main stage next to Tweety. We need to get parts and service where Metalionette is son of a bitch. Once we get there, it'll go over to the elevator and that's it. On Night 2, it once again has us controlling Jolly and traveling to parts and service. But this time, Metalionette is seen chained to the wall with the same wires from the actual game. Once there, it'll say it's okay, which appears on the bottom left of the screen. Then we leave the room and are attacked and probably disabled by an employee. The Night 3 minigame starts us off on the first floor, where there's a fuck ton of kids. And we gotta go to the kitchen, where the same employee from the previous minigame is doing something. The guard was not expecting us to arrive there, so he attacks and deactivates us. The Night 4 minigame begins on the same floor as in the Night 3 minigame, and we move to the kitchen again. This time, however, the guard has finished preparing a good meal for the kids to fuck with. Following him is useless as we're omega slow. Moving to the party room where we started at causes the guard to attack us and deactivate us again. Seriously, man? In Night 5, we play as Jolly for the final time this game, but the style switches from an 8-bit minigame to a cutscene. We're looking through Jolly's eyes in the kitchen for a few seconds before the cutscene ends and the words "look at what you've done" appear. On Night 6 and 7 there isn't a minigame or a cutscene, but it does give us an overtime check on Night 6 and this pink slip on Night 7. The pink slip also states that we are no longer needed as the animatronics have been destroyed, followed up with a picture of George getting fucking gutted. Damn. So that's actually all of the minigames that fill in the gaps in the story bit by bit, but since I already went over the gap fillers, should not have phrased it like that. Damn. I should also briefly explain the general plot and story. The game is set sometime after Circus Baby's Pizza World was opened, and with its quick success, other restaurants instantly started losing business. One of the establishments was Jollibees Fantasy World. We also find out the name of the CEO, and he becomes somewhat of a mainstay character a bit later on. To compete with Circus Babies, he issued 5 animatronics that would hopefully shift the customer's attention in his favor. These animatronics are really fucking advanced, almost being complete science fiction, and they move around during the day and, as we learn on the job, also during the night. Really not shocking anymore with this franchise. We play as Mikhail Schmidt in the night guard position. This is pretty much it for the first game, and not much else is left. All in all, the game has a lot of charm and is really fun to play despite all of its flaws. It's really polished, having very few bugs, which is something that can't be said for all of the games. The animatronics are also pretty unique, but nothing too special. Mostly exuding personality due to my love of Sister Location's setting. Fuck all y'all, Sister Location is peak, even if it isn't that replayable. I will die on this fucking hill, fight me. In conclusion, I give this game 7
good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. Moving on to the next entry in the series, shockingly enough named Jolly 2. FNAF adjacent naming schemes are simple and I kinda love it. Like, just imagine this was called like Jolly 2 Electric Boogaloo or something like that. Doesn't quite hit as hard, but it does rhyme. Anyway, this experimental sequel, to say the least, was released on December 2nd, 2016, and it does a lot wrong. Sadly, it has us surviving nights on a ship that is housing the original Freddy's animatronics alongside specifically Jolly and George for some reason. Anyway, following my dogshit formula, let's start off with the gameplay. In our office, the most important thing to mention is that we have 2 doors, a monitor, and lastly, valves behind us. Cam 1 is cargo area, Cam 2 is cargo area 2, Cam 3 is the second class lounge, while Cam 4 is the air vent. Cam 5 is the second class hallway, and Cam 6 and 8 are the third class entrance 1 and 2, while Cam 7 and 9 are third class hallway 1 and 2. We use all of the cameras to figure out where the animatronics are, and no, I'm not saying that ironically. This game actually does rely a lot off of us knowing where animatronics are exactly. so you will most likely also need to predict their movements quite a lot. Making predictions as part of the main gameplay structure is one of the many gripes I have with this game. But let's finish the gameplay explanation first. On the cameras we also have this shock button, which shockingly shocks an animatronic, frying its circuits for a bit and rendering it immobile because it's shocked. The next part of our office is both our doors that can also leave us shocked with fear. Okay, now I'm really done inside of my system, but in all seriousness, they are equipped with a shock tool as well, but this one doesn't stun them in place, but rather sends them back to their starting locations. These shock thingamajigs have incredibly long cooldowns, excluding the ones on the cameras. That is actually pretty much how you're supposed to win. Use the shock tool on the cameras to slow the animatronics down so that they can be synced and desynced depending on what you need. The last part of our office is the vent valves behind us. These are our classic music box gameplay. They sometimes loosen up and you'll hear a loud steam sound. To fix it, you just gotta find the vent that's leaking and click on it. Now as for the animatronics, they're all pretty lame, to be quite frank. They all work in the exact same way mostly. They all come to our office doors and need to be shocked to leave. That's literally fucking it. The only differences are their paths, so let me show them to you. Before that, the animatronics present, like I kinda mentioned, but not really, are Classic George, Classic Jolly, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and of course Foxy, who is the single different animatronic because he appears in a minigame between nights and isn't a part of the main gameplay cycle. I'll go over that minigame piece of shit in a bit, but because this game is incredibly simple in its nature and there really isn't any mix-up animatronic, I'll explain all their paths right away. George starts off in night 1 and it takes the path from cargo area 1 into the second class lounge, air vent, third class hallway, and finally our left office door. Now one final gameplay thing, the animatronics don't actually appear at our doors, instead they just disappear from all the cameras and we have to keep track of them to know when they're attacking us. This is what I meant by saying you need to predict very often. Like, fuck off, I just wanna play my goofy animatronic killer game. Got that? Next up is Bonnie, who also appears on night 1 onwards, and it starts in cargo area 2, moves to third class entrance 2, into third class hallway 2, and finally to our office door on the right. Those are our 2 starter threats, and on night 2 they're also the same, but rarely Chica can move. The path Chica takes also starts in cargo area 2, moving to third class entrance 2, then third class entrance 1, third class hallway 1, and finally our left office door. Night 3 Freddy activates and also starts in cargo area 2, but its path is slightly more complicated. Freddy can take a left path or a right path, being able to attack from either side. The left path Freddy starts moving to third class entrance 1, third class hallway 1, and straight to our office door. Its right path is also similar but inverted. Freddy moves to third class entrance 2, third class hallway 2, and finally our office door. Jolly is the final threat added and starts moving on night 4 from cargo area 1, moving through second class lounge, second class hallway, third class entrance 2, third class hallway 2, and finally outside of our right door. Jolly works slightly differently, but this small change weirdly makes it even less of a threat. Once Jolly moves to our door, instead of not being able to see it, we get a signal out message, quite literally signaling that we need to shock his ass. Finally, Foxy, who isn't a threat there, but is in this small between nights minigame that I didn't get even once. I just kinda died. This minigame kind of works like fun with Plush Trap, giving us a 2-hour head start in the next attempt if we succeed. It works a bit differently from Plush Trap though. We have a sleep meter that we have to fill up. Every here and again, Foxy will play the faintest sound cue I have never heard, and we gotta move to one of the 3 doors. If we hear running, we have to flash its ass with our light, and that's pretty much it. But it still managed to warrant a longer explanation than any single other animatronic in this fucking game. Now it's time for the lore, which there isn't much to say, kinda. The minigames are really bare bones, basically repeating for all 5 of the nights. It has us play as a security guard chasing Mr. Purple Guy, Phone Guy, Father of Free, Businessman, Engineer, Robot Designer, William Afton. That is pretty much it for the minigames, but there is additional minigames that we can get. The first one by completing night 6 and the other by either dying on night 6 or night 5. Additionally, if we don't get it, we can click on the Jolly sprite in the extras menu, which is found in the lower left corner. The one for completing night 6 shows us this incredibly short cutscene. This enters us into a minigame playing as Jolly and delivering 9 burgers to 9 kids. Finally, just like in Sister Location's baby minigame, we go back to the start and get a bonus burger. Then we gotta find this hidden path with an invisible floor and jump to the right to find a new area. There we find this little girl crying and she approaches us running in for a hug. After that, Mr. Purple Guy, Phone Guy, Father of Free, Businessman, Engineer, Robot Designer, William Afton charges towards us and this cutscene plays. After that, credits roll and we finally see Jolly standing with its eyes unlit, giving us the true ending. This suggests her soul has been freed, and yeah, that's it. By the way, it's about time I mentioned this, but I'm just flying through the lore as I will do a final segment of this entire thing. So yeah, that's it for this game, but I am nowhere near done. This is by far the worst game in the series. Don't worry though, because the rest are at worst very solid games and at best incredible experiences. It is not only unoriginal, basically working as a touchier version of FNAF 1. The old character from Freddy's being there I can forgive, but where the fuck are Tweety and Max? Like, this is so genuinely fucking confusing because they're his characters. The designs also aren't anything that impressive, but by far the biggest stinker is the gameplay. It is so RNG heavy, it is not fun whatsoever. I like the concept kinda. I know I just said it's unoriginal, but that's mostly because it is executed in such a way that it doesn't do anything as intended. I like the idea of having to track animatronics and not relying so much on reaction time and simplicity, which is one of my biggest gripes of the entire FNAF series of fan games. I like that it makes you use your brain more than your hands, but it just wasn't tested enough. This is also why the later games are some of my favorites. This specific issue clearly stuck with Ivan because he really leans into this more and more the further we go. With all my gripes, I give this game 2
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. Moving on from the single worst game in the series to what I thought would be one of the best. Oh, how very wrong I was. This game, before I say anything, is incredible, but with a few minor issues. The later games, however, are so genuinely good that this one is probably the 3rd best / worst game in the series. This in itself shows an incredible amount of growth from the developer. And this was the game where I could see that this developer could one day make a hit game if provided the resources. Without any more glazing, let's start off with this insanely in-depth game. The game was released on September 14th of 2017. Since it has a lot of moving parts, unlike the other games, I will go over everything in order of it happening. Before anything, it is important to note that each night is formed out of 3 parts, kind of. The standard night section, the very brief roaming section, and the sister location style minigames. The cool part about this game instantly is that we aren't actually playing as just another security guard. We are actually playing as some sort of detective. trying to find any evidence to uncover the tragedies that occurred at Freddy's and Jollies. Night 1, we enter our office and immediately we can see a resemblance to the sister location's layout. The big difference here is that we actually spend midnight to 6 AM here because the animatronics deactivate or something like that when it hits 6 AM. Anyway, our office is made up of 3 main gameplay pieces. Firstly, these lights on the left and right side. When you turn them on, you can see if the animatronic that resides there has moved. This is kinda useless to be honest, but it also houses a hallucination. This game takes a lot good from both FNAF 2, Free, and Sister Location. The second part is our maintenance panel, which is also split into 2 parts. The first and most important part is our cameras, which there's a total of 13 fucking cameras, and they are in the order: West Testing Control Room, West Hall 1 and 2, Room Closet, East Testing Control Room, East Hall 1 and 2, Front Hallway, Octagon Junction, Assembly Line Hallway, Assembly Control Room, Assembly Line, and Storage Room. Each of them have an assigned fan. These fans have a sort of health bar, and if they break, we have to repair them before we die due to not having enough oxygen. But that isn't all they do. They also mess with the next part of our panel, which is the actual maintenance part. Here we can see our oxygen levels and if a fan is currently broken, but trust me, you'll know without looking at the screen. The more important thing is the gas supply. This is our main way of defending ourselves, and it is connected to the third and final part of our office, which is the lever right in front of us. In this game we have no doors, just like in FNAF 2, but instead of flashing the animatronics or using a mask to trick them, we use this gas to fry their circuits for a bit and send them back to their starting locations. It is also important to mention that every single attacking animatronic is fended off in this way. Once they enter it, it also triggers a kind of familiar blackout sequence. We just pull down the lever instead of putting on a mask, and depending on how long we hold the lever down, our gas supply will drain accordingly. You can just about defend yourself 4-ish times before having to refill it, but that requires really good reaction time and even better knowledge of the sound cues. I personally get 3 pumps out of this at most before refilling it. I would also refill it between each attack if possible. The second thing to watch out for is that it can sometimes just break and leave us in a very dire situation. This works on a sort of timer, and you can stop it from breaking at the worst time known to man by repairing it preemptively every once in a while, like I just said. If it is broken, you also can't defend yourself during that time, so if it breaks and an animatronic enters your office, you're as good as that. On the maintenance panel, we also see the date this takes place and our clock for the night. Now that all of those pretty complicated gimmicks are explained, I think it is about time to go over the animatronics. They are separated into 2 main categories: the threats and the hallucinations. The threats fall under the Withered set, and this time Ivan actually makes use of all of his designs. We have Withered Jolly, Withered George, Withered Tweety, and Withered Maxie. These are the animatronics that can actually hurt us, and here is the FNAF 3 part of the game coming into effect. The rest of the animatronics are hallucinations that belong to the Metal set. We have Metal Freddy, Metal Chica, Metal Bonnie, and Metal Foxy. They're meant to be used exclusively as distractions and annoying pieces of shit. It's about time we explain how the first night animatronics work though. So the threats we deal with right away are Tweety and Maxie. Tweety and Maxie work as our classic Bonnie and Chica duo. Tweety takes the left side and Maxie the right, converging in the middle. Tweety's path starts off in the West Testing Control Room through West Hall 1, West Hall 2, meeting up with its pals in Octagon Junction, and moves to the front hallway and finally into our office. Maxie has pretty much the same path but flipped. It starts off in the East Testing Control Room, moves through East Hall 1 and East Hall 2, meeting with everyone in Octagon Junction, and once again the front hallway and finally our office. Anyway, this night really isn't all that difficult. Everyone is pretty slow, and it mostly serves as a way for you to get the hang of the camera's positions. After our first night, we move to the Octagon Junction and head into Tweety's hunting grounds, the West Testing Control Room. What a fucking mouthful. In here, we are told to find a safe so our friend can hack it open. Once we find it, everything goes haywire and Tweety turns on. This gives us a minigame setup that once again calls back to sister location, as Tweety will move towards us if we use our super ultra mega giga terror hacker phone for too long, and each time it moves, a sound cue will be played. This kind of makes it very easy, but there are additional challenges here. On our hacker phone, we get this 5x5 grid with an entry icon in one slot and an exit icon in the other. These are randomly made, but they slowly get further and further away from each other. If we click on a box, it will make an arrow that will lead a current through it. We have to, of course, get it from the entrance to the exit, and we have to do these little puzzles 20 fucking times, and also each one of these 20 has its own time limit before it resets. This makes it pretty stressful because we have to track Weedy alongside solving these mini puzzles. Now imagine if you had to get all 20 of them without mistake. Insane? Yeah, you're right. Thankfully, we don't have to. You have as many attempts as you need, and the only way you can actually fail is by having Tweety, make you leave this mortal plane. Moving on, once we hack the safe and open it, we find a bunch of papers and get an Atari minigame. Wow, who would have seen that one coming? In the minigame, we play as a familiar face and are shown around the location by you already know who, just by the text color. He shows us the spots, gives us some tips and tricks, and says, don't enter this room. Every room is okay, not this baby. What do we do then, you might ask? Well, we enter that room. Then we get a very stern warning, to say the least. And we are poofed back to real life, and we have to stare at our ugly reflections until the next night starts. On this night, we also have one additional attacking animatronic, but every phantom is also now active. Let's go over George first. It starts off in a storage room and moves through the assembly line, assembly control room, assembly line hallway, once again converging in the octagon junction into the front hallway and making its way into our office. Now, as for the metal animatronics, they all start quite literally appearing right about now. So let's start off with Bonnie. It appears in one of our two windows, and we can also stop this son of a bitch by using the lights to check. This makes it completely useless. There isn't really a good reason to check these windows ever, so yeah, this is kind of a miss of a concept. I only got scared by Bonnie once when I was clicking every button to see what they would do. Now Chica. This annoying piece of shit Phantom Balloon Boy clone. It appears on every and any camera randomly, and if you don't swap the cameras or flip them down fast enough, she breaks your shit. Fuck you! Next up, Freddy. Freddy is just Golden Freddy, but instead of killing us, it just breaks our shit like every single other metal animatronic does. Finally, the last metal clanking fucker is Foxy, and it is just the thing that kills us if we run out of oxygen because of fan broke. That's honestly pretty lame. After night 2, we have a choice to either go into the storage room or the east testing room. I chose the storage room, and this one is kind of a freebie. Inside of it, Jolly is lying down, but the safe is found without any issues, and we are told the safe codes. However, after that we hear Antoinette.
That was easy.
Why does everything have to end? Like trust, attention, love. Why isn't forever existing? Why doesn't it exist in where we need it the most? Something bad happens. Something bad always happens. You don't know what happened. You will never know what happened. You won't understand. Nobody understands pain of the past. Unless you fix it. You can fix the past. Can you do that for me? The codes are hidden. Fix the past. Make history not repeat itself, and you will change what happened forever.
The night 2 cutscene plays and it just shows us taking our daughter to a location, which is where it ends. Moving on to night 3, here we aren't threatened by any new animatronics, but this is where the game's difficulty starts to show off a bit. But nothing too serious yet, as we are missing our final crew member, but before that, the post-night segment. On night 3, no matter where we try to go, we are kidnapped by Antoinette and placed on the assembly line.
What brings you here, in this harmonious place of ours? It's an unusual time to receive visitors. I didn't even get to clean this place up. Did you come here to see someone? Or did you come here for something else? You came here for evidence. You came here to relive the past. Well, that past doesn't want to be revisited. Especially that particular past had some bad events attached to it. You don't care what other people think. You don't care what they feel. All you care about is the fame that you'll get, the money that you'll indulge in. It's fascinating how money can make people do things they never thought they'd do. If you haven't noticed yet, people who come here don't go out. And it stays that way. Although I have to give you credit, it's fascinating how you managed through 3 nights here. This will be your last.
This leads to a minigame where we have to lift ourselves up and keep moving on the conveyor belt until it shuts off. Obviously, if we don't succeed, I think you can guess what happens. This is followed by another cutscene thingy, and in this one we play as the daughter and follow our father, aka our player character, into the kitchen, which is when Purple Guy does his thing. Moving on. Night 4, here our final antagonist joins the fray. Of course, I'm talking about Jolly. It starts off in the storage room, moving through the assembly line control room, assembly line hallway, again meeting up in Octagon Junction and moving through the front hallway into our office. With that, we have activated all of the threats. So here's a bit of info for nights 4 and 5 together. Night 4, the difficulty spikes, but just focus on checking your hallway and repairing your gas every so often. Additionally, if you can, try to keep track of vent damage, although generally I usually remembered them by knowing if the left, right, middle, or top vents were the most damaged, and I started checking them by priority. Get used to that, as you will need to at least generally understand this by night 5, which spikes the difficulty up by way too much, honestly, as the animatronics work fucking overtime to run at you as fast as possible. Chica is just also a fucking bitch, so good luck, but yeah, it's still really enjoyable. Moving on, as for the post night 4 stuff, here you take the other path that you could have taken on night 2. For me, it was the East testing control room, which houses Maxi and our final minigame. This one I really like. It has the same setup as the tweeting minigame, but with Maxi. It will move closer when our phone is up and move back when we drop it. We have a timer to do a task and blah blah. The reason I like this one is because it's this fake hacker type racer minigame, which is really cool and really stressful. It was really fun, but it still took a long while, and there was quite a few moments where Maxi just didn't want to fuck off, and I had to fail one or two of the codes purely knowing that if I tried to do even one of them that I would die. But because we can't die due to missing codes, it's not that big of an issue. Moving on to the cutscene thingy again. This time we see our player character sneaking across a shipping boat for some ungodly reason, to sneak into this truck for some other reason. Then we are straight up plopped into night 5, and good luck with that. You will need pretty fast reaction speeds, good mouse placements, and at minimum solid map awareness to know where everyone is at each given moment. Once we get past this hellish night 5, we finally move on to the
Whoa, dude, did you know about this? There's a passageway right leading to another facility right next to this building. The passageway is located at the storage room. Maybe there's an unactivated animatronic there? It's worth a try. Look, I know that you're the one doing all the work, and I know that you're tired of all this bull crap. But think of all what you get if you do this. All the money, all the recognition. You're tired of living the same boring life every day. And that's why you did this in the first place. Right?
Yeah, that's actually it for this game. It leaves off on a cliffhanger, hinting at the next game in the series being a direct sequel that happens right after this game. But before we move on from this one, let me give a few of my thoughts on it. And honestly, I just fucking love this game. It's amazing, but it isn't flawless. The gameplay cycle of The Office is nearly perfect. The between night minigames with Tweety, Maxi, and Antoinette are intense and just long enough and easy enough to be fair and terrifying at the same time. The designs are some of the best this series has to offer, so you might be thinking, what exactly is the problem? One simple answer. You guessed it. Bugs. This game isn't even ridden with bugs like most games, but the few that exist are so game-breaking and immersion-shattering that it makes it unplayable. The first one I encountered was constantly happening due to Metal Chica. Each time that I would flip down the monitor instead of switching the camera, there was about a 50-50 shot that the cams would get stuck, I couldn't progress, and I couldn't die, and I would need to restart the game. Incredibly annoying, especially when it conflicts with the character that you will deal with the most in the entire game. The second bug I encountered is also pretty big, but not as big. In the post-night segments with Tweety and Max, the audio is just laggy sometimes. Like, they would move and play their sound cue a solid 15 seconds later, leading to situations that were too close for comfort. That is genuinely pretty much everything that holds this game back. The rest of my gripes are pretty minor. Like, for example, the metal animatronics excluding Chica are such a non-factor you could just not include them, but I would rather keep them and change them up a bit. The windows are kinda useless as well. Either keep them and make them something you need to check by having a metal animatronic work on a Nightmare Freddy system type thing where it counts up until they break your shit, while they slowly fade in. And the final gripe, the 8-bit sections movement somehow feels fucked. I don't know how to even explain this, it just feels fucked. But that's it, wrap it up, and move on to the final game of the current Jolly franchise, but not the entire Jolly saga. All in all, 8
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. Jolly Free Chapter 2 continues pretty much exactly where we left off. Still looking for information about the incident, and the proof that we found in the last game was not good enough. Because of this, we are set on a do or die quest for proof and go to a slightly newer location, I think, because it most likely is inside the same building as the last game. This part I'm a bit iffy on. Anyway, we start off in a sister location type elevator, again, and make our way through the location in a point and click style part of the game where we have a few gimmicks actually. Firstly, it is as dark as shit and we have 3 ways of looking through the darkness. Our flash, which will momentarily light up your location so we can actually see. The second way we can see absolutely anything is pulling up our phone to use our night vision, and this one is completely honestly fucking useless. But also, as you will notice, this entire section is kind of a joke. The third and final way we can avoid the darkness is our map. We can either choose to pull it up and look at it, or completely ignore that because every single time we move or turn around, the map will show for a brief moment. We can also hold our breath for a bit in urgent cases if something is blocking our way. On the first night, we don't really have to worry about anything, but let's just go over this entire section right away as it only shows up at the beginning and at the end of the entire game for some reason. There are 2 animatronics roaming around and they're also our main threats of this game. They can appear pretty much anywhere, and if we encounter them we have 2 options: to run the fuck away and pray we avoid them, or turn our head to look in the opposite direction and hold our breath while praying that they just go away. Yeah, moving through the 2 threats, here we make our way into our new office for this game. The nights here are mostly the same, so I'll go over everything just right away. Let's start off with our office layout. We have a lot to go over. Firstly, there are 2 doorways on each side, but nothing much we can do with them. Secondly, we have our cameras, which have one of the coolest layouts, albeit a really fucking weird setup. It takes a bit of a time to get used to, but nothing too big. It is separated into 4 different areas and each quarter has a few cameras in it. It is also the first and last game in the series to have absolutely no names attached to the cameras, which is just weird since he did it for every single other game, but yeah, they're exclusively numbered and they are also numbered weirdly. They go from 1 to 14 with the exception of 7 for some ungodly fucking reason. Area 1 houses cameras 1, 2, and 3. Area 2 houses cameras 4, 5, and 6. Area 3 has cameras 8, 9, 10, and 11 in it. And Area 4 has the final cameras 12, 13, and 14. Yeah, there just isn't a cam 7. This is so fucking weird. Probably just a slip up to be honest, but it really fucking bothers me. Anyway, the last thing to mention about the cameras is that it will remain zoomed in on the camera that we were last on, which is something most games have, but since there's an extra step in here, I thought I should mention it. Moving on, the next part of our office is actually behind us, and it is a maintenance panel that is made up of 3 different parts: the radar, jammer, and maintenance. Why the fuck does a maintenance panel have a maintenance option? Anyway, the radar is pretty self-explanatory. It locates the animatronic spots on the map, but it makes it a bit harder than most games because the cameras aren't marked on the minimap we are shown. This is primarily useful if you lose track of the threats, which, as you will see when we get to them, is shockingly easy. Next up, the jammer. This is our standard defense mechanism that every single FNAF adjacent game has to have. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. It shocks both the doorways and has a really long ass cooldown, and this obviously makes it really hard because if the animatronics make it to the door separately, you won't have it up in time, is what I would say if this game was poorly designed. But the dev obviously thought of that. It has a really big cooldown reduction if you manage to catch an animatronic in the shock. This allows you to hit them if they are desynced, but also if they're synced, but it also heavily punishes you for shocking them at the wrong time, for calling your shots badly. The final part is the actual maintenance part of the maintenance panel, and it is basically just the FNAF maintenance panel. You can repair either the cameras, ventilation, or the AC. Obviously, if your cameras break, you can't see shit. If your vents break, you can't breathe shit. And if the AC breaks, you'll also just break out in a sweat. But seriously now, The vents will cause you to die due to asphyxiation, and the AC will cause the animatronics to move a lot fucking faster, just like they would in Pizza Sim. Now finally, we can move on to the pieces of shit that cause us issues. This game takes a bit of a FNAF free approach, but not quite. Instead of 10 threats, we only have 2, and alongside them there are also 2 hallucinations that aren't phantoms but rather shadows this time around. We are severely traumatized from the previous games, and the 2 real threats are actually recurring villains in Wither Jolly and Wither George. They work similarly, but let's still go over them one by one. Starting with Wither George. It starts off in Cam 14 and moves through Cams 13, 12, 6, 4, 5, 4 again, Cam 6, and finally makes his way to our right office door, where we will see him kind of like most of the animatronics from Five Nights at Candy's 1 with his glowing eyes. Once he's at our door, we obviously have to use our jammer, which resets him back to Cam 14, and the cycle goes on and on. But you might be asking, why the fuck does he take a detour to Cam 5 instead of moving directly to our office when it is in Cam 6? Well, the answer is because George here is the one that actually breaks our AC, and it breaks it every time it enters Cam 5. That's pretty much it for George, so let's move to our titular animatronic Wither Jolly. It starts off in Cam 11 and moves through Cam 10, and then it can either take the long path or a shortcut. The long way has Jolly move through cameras 8, 2, 1, and 3 before making his way to our left office door. The short path, on the other hand, takes him through cams 9 and 3 directly to our office door. Now here is where Jolly differentiates themselves from George. Unlike George's glowing eyes, Jolly will get to your door and be completely unnoticeable. The way you're supposed to defend yourself is by tracking both of the animatronics because their paths are completely consistent, with the only RNG being present in their move speed. The other way you can track them when they get to your doors, or more specifically just Jolly, is by using the radar, but this should be kind of a last-ditch effort. If you can't find Jolly on the cameras because they're incredibly fast, both moving through the facility and the time they give you to react, it is also made even tighter because the jammer has a pretty long startup before it zaps them. But yeah, moving on, this is all of our threats in this game. But we aren't done yet because we still have Shadow Tweety and Shadow Maxi. Yes, Ivan actually once again used all of his designs. Shadow Maxi is the simpler one of the two and works in the exact same way as Metal Tweety in the last game, who works in the exact same way as Phantom Balloon Boy from FNAF 3. It appears on the cameras, and if we don't flip or swap the cams, we just get jump scared and our ventilation system just fucking breaks for some reason. Next up is the final shadow threat, which I just named like 2 seconds ago, and that's Tweety. Tweety works in a really specific and really cool way. It works pretty similarly to Foxy from Ultimate Custom Night, but with a more streamlined approach. If we stare at the cameras for too long, Tweety will start assembling itself piece by piece, but unlike UC and Foxy, we can actually stop this progression by turning around for a few seconds and just kind of like ignoring her. Obviously, if it assembles itself, we get jump scared, and just like Maxi, this will cause our vents to get fucked for some reason. That pretty much concludes this entire office section except for the lore tidbits. We obviously aren't left to our own devices here, but rather we have our classic phone guy, who is the CEO of Jolly Entertainment in this game, and we're somewhat of a test dummy for this entire thing. Yeah, I'm not quite sure why we are a test dummy or what we are a test dummy for. But yeah, that's actually pretty much everything we get from this segment. But don't worry, because we are nowhere near done with this game. I'd say even less than halfway through, honestly. Especially because we have a final part of the night which follows the office segments, and they are the house segments. Each night has a progressively harder and harder FNAF 4 style night, but instead of being on a timer, it has us complete an objective before letting us go. Once again calling back to the heavy sister location inspiration. This time we are hacking files instead of safes, like in the last game. And at the end of each night we get an extra voice log with some tiny lore bits, but I'll play those at the end of this segment. Each night has us hack 10 files by just clicking on them and waiting, just like most tasks in FNAF 6. The The speed of decrypting them doesn't actually change throughout the entire game, but it gets harder because when we look away from the computer, the progress bar slowly depletes. And also once we look away from the computer, we will see 3 different entrances to the room we are in. The left door, center door, and window. They all have the exact same purpose and mechanics, which are locking our doors and flashing our flashlight. If we hear breathing, we need to lock our doors, and if we don't hear shit, we need to flash our light. This part of the game also houses 4 new animatronics that fall under the Rusty set. The first one is Rusty Freddy, who takes the middle door, Rusty Foxy, who takes the window, and lastly Rusty Chica and Rusty Bonnie, who take the left door in tandem. Once again, just like the Office segments, the difficulty doesn't come from introducing new threats, but rather it places the burden of execution on the player by having them speed up significantly each night. Also, one last thing to mention, you want to close the door after you flash it with the light. Pretty logical, but I'm stupid as shit, so that's a hot tip for yous. Now, our rewards for completing these segments, alongside getting to progress, are these voice recordings, which I will play in the order of unlocking them. Also, yes, the buzzing is annoying. Yes, it is a part of the game. No, it's not a bug. No, I can't remove it.
Recording testing log number 1. Today's subject to test is subject 1. Codename Jolly. Begin phase 1 of the testing protocol. Activating subject in 3, 2, 1. It has been 3 hours since the subject was activated, and we've noticed that it stops moving when it's monitored by our security cameras, documenting results. Beginning phase 2 of the testing protocol. The purpose of this test is to evaluate the animatronics fire accident response system. The facility's temperature will be turned up in 3, 2, 1. It has been 3 hours after the second phase has been initiated, and it seems the subject is not following its traditional patterns when being monitored by our cameras, documenting results. Recording testing log 3. Today's subject to test, subject 2. Codename Antoinette. Beginning phase 1 of the testing protocol. Activating in 3, 2... What the hell?
Now you might think we are done with this game for the most part, but next up we have Night 5. Here we are once again in our normal office, but upon completion, let's just say it gets interesting.
Congratulations, son. You have completed a 5-day test. As a reward for your hard work, you get to work here, full-time. I now grant you access to the facility fully. You can now also access the fancy bathroom down there. How cool is that, eh? Remember, come back tomorrow at 12 a.m. so you can start your first shift as an official night guard.
Dude, we have a problem. The oxygen system's been tampered too much. You need to fix it immediately or you will die there. Here, I'll send you the coordinates to the control room.
Now we are in the final stretch. We're placed in a brand new office that has a similar setup to the original Jolly. The game, not the game. The big hitter here is also that we have to fix our oxygen system, as it is a bit fucked and we will probably die if we don't breathe in oxygen, I'd say. So yeah, we have a limited power supply, and if it runs out we can't really repair shit, so we're just kind of fucked. Anyway, we have a few parts of the office again. The cams, which there are 5 of, and they kinda suck. They're completely obsolete, as everything in this segment is able to be avoided using sound cues. The next part of the office is also semi-obsolete, and it's the lights. They just let you see who is coming to your door soon, just as they did in the first game. We also have the signature door and our final panel of the Jolly series so far. We'll get to it. The oxygen maintenance panel, which works once a fucking again as a sister location segment. This time the one with Funtime Freddy. We need to fix a shit ton of these oxygen modules so that we can survive the night and actually escape. The extra thing to mention here is that the power is incredibly tight. Probably not as tight as the sister location Ender Night, but not too far off, honestly. The 2 animatronics that chase us around in here are still Jolly and George, and both of them make sound cues when they are at the window and when they are leaving from the door. Because of this, the cameras are obsolete and their paths don't matter, and also I think their paths are just completely identical, and it still just feels like they're bum rushing you constantly and sprinting to fucking get you. These mechanics aren't useless, and I honestly really love their implementation, because instead of being a badly designed mechanic that just doesn't work, they serve as a learning tool for us to learn what is going on during your first couple of attempts, until you eventually fully rely on sound cues to survive. Finally, we have another short wandering segment until we finally escape the facility and are shown this as our reward.
This is where our lives change forever. Are you ready?
Upon doing this, we also unlock a fair bit of side content. Firstly, we obviously unlock the extra nights, which actually don't reward us with anything when we complete them besides the signature stars on the menu screen. The cool bit about them though is that all 3 office segments have custom night variants, and they're pretty fucking customizable. And they also give us more info on how the characters actually work. Their descriptions are as reads. Jolly will move from area 3 and will decide which hall to go through after cam 10. Looking at him using the cameras will discourage him from moving. He will not give any sign if he's in your left door. No audio and visual cue will be given. If Jolly is not in any of the cameras, that means he's in your left door. Once he's in your left door, initiate the jamming systems, so keep an eye at him at all times. George will move from area 4 and move through Camp 5. While he's in Camp 5, he will disable the AC system and will eventually make the place hotter. After he does that, he will now go after you. Once he's on your right door, his eyes will appear. Initiate the signal jammer to deactivate him. Maxi will randomly appear in the cameras. If he does appear and you don't switch rooms or flip the camera down immediately, he will stun you momentarily and he will cause you to black out with visual distractions. Tweety will slowly materialize in front of your office if you stare at the animatronics in the cameras. To dematerialize her, switch to a camera with no animatronics or look back in your office. Once Tweety fully materializes, she will jump scare you and break the camera and ventilation systems. The rusty set of animatronics don't actually have any descriptions. Alongside this, we also have the extras, which here they are really fast for you nerds just like me who want to see everything that the game has to offer. However, we aren't done yet, as we also unlock this phone thing in the corner of the screen, and it works a little bit like Simulacra. We have a few codes hidden in the zip files found in downloads, each giving us a solution that once we do rewards us with the decrypted zip files. Before that, however, let's go over what we have available. We have our standard phone apps like Messages, Contacts, Phone, photos, calculator, browser, downloads, documents, calendar, and audio. The Messages app is useless, but you can in fact type in it and send it to yourself, which is pretty fucking funny. The contacts are also useless, just like the Photos app, but the phone actually gets a use. Firstly, it is used in one of the codes, and it also has a hidden Easter egg that I found when you type in 1987. Moving on, the calculator also has a purpose, aka it's used to unlock a code. The browser is also used for a code, but it has a fuck ton more funny Easter eggs than hidden lore. Firstly, the website named Yeehaw, and it just has a bunch of dumb fucking things like that, and it's really funny. WeTube instead of YouTube, and it also features a fuck ton of YouTubers' videos, which is a cool nod to all of them. The next one is Twitter, X, Facebook, Amazoo, 9gauge, Me IRL, Read It, That Pirate Bay, not the Pirate Bay, Steamer, sounds like a steaming pile of shit, Game Bolt, which are all again funny nods to real apps, followed up by jobfinder.com, which actually shows us how our character got these damn jobs and gives us a few dates to piece together the story. Next one is the funniest one to me, and it just says hotel, and the link is Trevano. It's funny, laugh. This gourd is also me, obviously, but the final one is the one we are interested in, unsolvedmysteries.com. This one features a lot of lore, so let me just read it all out for you.
Fazbear Entertainment. At first what might seem as an innocent entertainment company, dark secrets have been waiting to unfold. We've seen some pretty outrageous stuff happening in its pizzerias. Does the company really have nothing to do with it? Archived incidents. Missing children. 26th of June 1985. 5 children have gone missing in its pizzeria. While video surveillance identified the man responsible and led to his capture the following morning, the children themselves were never found and are presumed to be dead. Jolly Entertainment of August 1985. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria's sister company, Jolly Entertainment, has suffered a tragedy, losing hundreds of lives in its facility. While testing its prototype animatronics, an electrical explosion has occurred. While rehabilitation of the facility is barely a possibility at this point, the company has stated that its beloved cartoon animals will come back once more, even if it has to cut off its ties with Fazbear Entertainment. Possibly linked. Major power outage. 1st of July 1985. A major power outage has occurred in the whole state. The outage took roughly 10 hours to be fixed. Investigators have found the source of the inconvenience in the house of a man named Eric Liam Smith, who apparently works at Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. While the man is not charged, eyes are still looked upon him by the authorities for having a possible connection with the missing children incident.
The next tab is the downloads, where all the files we need to decode are found. In the Documents tab we find our fucking divorce papers, which are shockingly enough a part of a code. In the calendar there is sadly nothing. And yes, I scrolled all the way back to 1983 to check every single date, as well as going to 2023 just to be safe. Finally, we have the audio app, which lets us re-listen to the Between Night logs we heard a decent chunk of time ago. Now finally, the codes. First one is a simple binary code that upon translating tells us 152 times 843, which when entered into the calculator decrypts the first file. The second code is also a binary code that when translated gives us hashtag 800080, which once you enter it into the phone app and call it, decrypts the second file. The third and fourth files, I honestly have no fucking clue what they mean, but they unlock by clicking on this date in our divorce papers and clicking on this date on the unsolvedmysteries.com website in the browser. And finally, we can discuss the files that we actually unlocked. First one gives us this Freddy shooter minigame where we have to kill all of these zombies, collect the balloons, and then the app crashes and we move on to the second minigame, which is a Tweety air shooter. We need to survive until the final boss that we have to kill while collecting the balloons, which serve as both HP refills and small upgrades to us. Once we beat it, we get a small black and white minigame where we go into the mascot room at Jollies, then a guard walks in and we hide in the suit until we bleed out, giving us another spring lock suit event in a FNAF Fan Game, which really isn't that much of a shock at this point, so let's just move on. Then the app crashes just like the other one. The third minigame has us play this weird jumping minigame as what I think is Maxi. We once again have to reach the end after collecting all of the balloons, which leads us into another minigame. We are first told,
You took everything from me. You took her, and now look at what happened. Now I'm going to take everything away from you.
Here we play as a girl wandering up to Antoinette and we have to trash 2 things before seeing this. Then the app crashes again. The final one makes us play as what I presume is the same small girl and guide the lost souls of a father and mother to the daughter so that they can finally rest in peace. Then we get this small final cutscene before the credits roll. That is finally everything this game has to offer us. So before we wrap this little segment up, let me do a small recap of this game. It is genuinely fucking amazing. It has so much content to offer us. Amazing base gameplay, amazing post-night segments, a lot of lore tidbits that help us piece together the entire thing, a fucking side mode which gives us even more lore, a lot of extras, and insanely customizable custom night options. It was a blast, and it is definitely approaching GOAT status in the FNAF fan game genre of games for me. The gameplay feels really balanced and fair for the first time ever in this franchise. Every mechanic also has a fucking purpose. The jump scares are amazing, and of course the models are even more polished than ever. This one is just by far the best in the series, considering we are technically done with Jolly, but in the wider scheme of things, it's still a top 3 pick without any hesitation, and probably clenching out the first. All in all, I give this game 9
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. The next thing we have to discuss is obviously the story so far and where I believe it is heading, which might prove to be a bit more daunting of a task than I initially thought. Without any further ado, let's get the story started. Standard lore applies here. William Afton creates the animatronics and springlock suit technology and makes an incredibly successful pizzeria, and he still has his old habits of liking murder a little bit. This is pretty much where the story diverges from the canon FNAF storyline. William Afton opens up a factory to produce more animatronics, and the first ones built were the fantasy set, starting off with Jolly and George. They weren't created as a blank either. They were a part of a plan to start up a new location known as Jolly's Fantasy World where they would be used. For the time being, however, they were stored at Freddy's until the pizzeria was built and they could make their big debut. Now here we are introduced to a couple of our main characters in Eric Liam Smith, his wife Tony Audrey Smith, and his daughter Zoe. Eric starts working for Freddy's and soon enough his family FNAF stories now that I'm thinking about it. Wife divorces him and gets a restraining order, but he still spends a bit of time with his daughter Zoe. One day he takes her to his workplace for the very stupid thing I have only heard of in movies and games, which is the take your child to work day. or whatever. Anyway, this is where our antagonist, William Afton, makes his big appearance. He kidnaps Zoe alongside 4 other kids, and as you can already piece together, she is one of the unlucky 5 who's part of the missing children's incident that is even present in the main FNAF story. Obviously though, Zoe isn't usually there. Because of this tragic loss of life at the restaurant, the animatronics are shipped off to a cargo ship for an investigation. Eric decides to take up the job of watching over them during the night and discovers the tale as old as time. The animatronics are possessed by the dead children. Shocker, I know. Eric manages to survive the necessary shifts and makes his way home. His now ex-wife had heard what happened at Freddy's in the meantime and was furious with him, so she decided to throw all of his stuff out. Then Eric steps in the room right as she's attempting to throw away a prototype, aka Antoinette. This causes a massive power outage in the area that goes on for 10 hours. Authorities are now keeping an even closer eye on him as he was already connected to the missing children incident because he was an employee at Freddy's. He attempts to return to the cargo ship, sees that the police is now searching for him. He manages to escape and a man named Matthew Thompson takes his place for the remaining shifts aboard the ship, but gets fired soon after for a familiar reason to most of you, tampering with the animatronics. We also learn soon enough that Eric's daughter Zoe was the one possessing the Jolly suit, and upon learning what happened, she moves on to the afterlife, and her soul gets freed, but that's neither here nor there. In the meantime, Eric stakes out at the factory, and one day when he heard someone coming, he hid in the Jolly suit, which was damaged and unusable currently. And of course, he gets spring-locked. Factory continues working, and Eric is presumed to be missing. Once they finally got a hold of Jolly and started doing tests, they noticed a very particular behavior. It stops moving as soon as it is being monitored. This is of course Eric's doing. As his last memories had him hiding out, it is instinctual behavior for him to not want to be seen. Due to this strange quirk, the workers decided to test out the other animatronics and most importantly Antoinette, the prototype from Eric's home. Once they tried a few tests on it though, it caused a massive electrical explosion and basically just destroyed the entire factory, alongside taking the lives of way too many factory workers. This in fact wasn't an accident. It was the doing of Eric's wife, Tony. She went on to possess the prototype after she was electrocuted to death from trying to throw it away. This entire series of events led to Jolly cutting its corporate ties with Freddy's, as the bad reputation was not working wonders for their finances. This also led to the factory's closure alongside the damages done to it, leaving it ruined and abandoned. Then about 30 years later in 2017, talks begin to surface about a horror-themed attraction related to Freddy's known as Fazbear Frights. Sound familiar? It should. They begin collecting old relics from past locations, and again the timeline diverges a little bit, because their first target in this timeline is the factory. Here we are introduced to another pair of our main characters in Jack Carson and his friend Theo, who is hired to do the dirty work of exploring and finding anything that can be used for the new location. Unfortunately, even though they found a lot of scripts and texts filled with the history of the location alongside a few tapes that we have already seen, they don't manage to get any Fazbear artifacts because the animatronics still present in the factory are of course out to kill him. Due to their failure, they are sent to another underground facility where he is contacted by his boss, who threatens to fire him if he fails this time. Theo finds a faint signal of an animatronic and directs Jack to the location, but it obviously isn't that simple and it's locked via a keycard, which can actually still be obtained by completing a really disgustingly brutal crash course by the previous employer of the location, Kevin Johnson, who is also the CEO of Jolly Entertainment. The training crash course requires him to survive 5 nights while being hunted down by Jolly and George, and this was supposed to be like a training guards for the security guards, which has some really heavy implications because it means that they were actually aware of the animatronics' tendencies to attack and kill people, which I don't know about you, but I don't think many people would accept the job offer if they knew that they knew. Anyway, after each night, Jack moves into the room, scraping the computers for any data that he can find, all while being hunted down by a few animatronics, which are of course the core 4 Freddy's mascots. After the crash course, however, the oxygen system fails completely randomly and totally not by somebody else's actions, and it needs to be fixed. Of course, Jack heads and tries to fix it because he doesn't want to die. kinda obvious. After fixing the oxygen supply, he finally gets access to the room because he acquires the key card necessary. In it, he finds the one and only Springtrap. The location then, once again, completely by random, starts collapsing and our main man, Jack White, possibly dies. Actually, most likely. However, because the animatronics were destroyed in that accident, Eric and Toadie's spirits are freed once they are reunited with Zoe's spirit. Finally, we move to current year. Circus Babies, which is also present in this timeline, opens up and starts taking a large portion of the business that Jolly's fantasy world had. So Kevin Johnson, just as any CEO would, decides to up the ante and makes new versions of the animatronics to revive the business and make them competitive against Circus Babies. There's also another familiar face to the FNAF fans here known as Michael Schmidt, who is the security guard at the Jollies location. It also seems that just like in the mainline story, Michael Schmidt is a cover name since he is in Afton and trying to figure out what happened to his father alongside destroying the competition so that he can keep Fazbear's alive for now. He's caught on camera poisoning the food that resulted in another 5 kids dying. He's a little bit more evil in this timeline. He also disassembles the animatronics at the location, and this is where the story stops for now. Kind of. The rest of the story is retcon, so I'll be covering it after the next 2 games as it is entirely connected to them. My thoughts on where the story is headed, well, I feel like it's honestly pretty obvious. It definitely feels like we're going to get more info about Michael and who he really is, as it isn't really fully confirmed to be a tie to Afton in the Jolly series, not the regular FNAF series. We've been over this for how many fucking almost 11 years now, but yeah, it's not confirmed here. It feels like the next logical move, and it'll also just tie up the loose end of Springtrap and move the story forward to give us an answer for the poisoning incident. However, you can keep in mind that this is the entire story so far. It's also everything you need to know about the Jolly franchise as we move to our final 2 entries with a lot of real world lore. Jollibees Phase 1. Before we start off with this insane entry, we should firstly go over the real world drama behind both of the entries of Jollibees, as it is actually really important to know why this story doesn't functionally exist anymore. Back in July of 2020, Ivan G was contacted by some shit-faced lawyers from the real-life Jollibees restaurant and was basically given a cease and desist. They found these 2 final games to be copyright infringement and a danger to their brand. I understand the copyright infringement since he did just use their designs and upgrade them, but the damage to the brand bit is just bullshit. It's even worse considering it probably did them more good than bad. Hell, I wouldn't know what the fuck a Jollibees is if it wasn't from these games. I'm from the fucking EU, what the fuck do I know about this shit? Obviously I won't believe the fucking killer animatronic bullshit and infinite life stuff, so it's just a pointless fucking takedown that I really do not understand at all. Due to all of this, however, the games had to be taken down and they can't really be downloaded anymore, but as most of you know, whatever is uploaded to the internet stays on the internet. I, of course, found a random Reddit link and risked getting a virus, which I probably did get, but luckily the games worked, and I managed to play through them in their entire beautiful glory. So that's the reason these games aren't canon anymore. Without any more stalling, let's just get into these banned games. The game opens up exactly where the canon story ends. It gives us this cool news report sequence about the food poisoning, which let me just show it to you.
5 children have been victims of food poisoning earlier this morning while at a party in a local fast food restaurant. Surveillance footage shows that an unknown man wearing blue broke into the kitchen and added what seemed to be chemicals, which was later given to the children.
After that, we get another free roam segment where we can wander around the location and even leave. This actually isn't just a gag and has some extra stuff attached to it, so remember it for now. Besides that, there is nothing that special with this segment yet, and it doesn't have any complicated gimmicks like the previous game. Instead, we just make our way to the office, and that is where the fun starts. Right away, we have a lot of shit to go over, and for once, a semi-competent phone guy that actually explains it a lot better than I probably can, but he is kinda useless, however, because, once again, I'm here. The office has a decent amount of shit going on in it. The most noticeable things are obviously the computer, the conveniently placed door in front of us with a small window in it, the vent to our left, and the window to our right. We also have our classic time in the top right, and most importantly, a ref meter in the top left, as well as a power button in the bottom left. But let's start off with the vent, as it is the simplest. It's an entrance into our office, and we can flash the light to see what is lurking there. The next one to cross off of our list is the door. It has this small window in it that has a consistent mechanic to accompany it. Once the animatronics reach the door, we will see them and we must shut off the power until they leave. The next part of our office is the window to our right, and it actually has a bit more of a purpose than just being an entrance, as it houses an entire animatronic, a new addition to the cast, one that was soon wiped from the history of this franchise because of a real life franchise. Hetty, she's the first one I'll go over, as she appears on each and every night and works in the most unique way while being the sole animatronic connected to this right side window. She lays low, appearing broken at first, but after a bit of time she stands up and eventually makes her way outside of the room. Once she leaves, she actually doesn't straight up kill you, but rather takes to the vents above her room. If she gets in, it becomes very hard to contain her as she moves incredibly fast. Alongside that, sealing the vents on her does work, but since she's so fast, it's kinda hard to do so. Sealing vents, that's probably what you're thinking right now, so yeah, it's about time to go over our camera system. It is formed out of 2 layers, something akin to the FNAF 3 map layout. 2 floors, one consisting of the building's floor plan, alongside a second layer made up of the vents. Also, very importantly, this camera system contains a lot of fucking, well, cameras. A total of 17 in fact. Let's go over them as a way to introduce the cast before we actually meet them as well. On camera 1, we have the front hall. Cam 2 is the supply closet. 3 is Yum's party room and houses another one of the Jollibees cast, Yum. He also starts off as a threat on night 1, but I'll go over him after the rest of the cameras. Cam 4 houses another one of our friends, Popo, who is in the aptly named Popo's Playroom, and he stops being our friend on night 2. Cam 5 is the party hallway, and Cam 6 houses the main man of the franchise, Jollibee, who is on the aptly named Jollibees show stage, and he starts chasing us on night 3. Cams 7 and 8 are just Kitchen A and Kitchen B. Cam 9 houses our final threat of night 1, who is Twirly, and she starts on the also aptly named Twirly's show stage. Cam 10 is the lobby, and Cam 11 is the dining room. The other 6 cameras are vents which are entered from more or less the location seen on the map when overlaid. I know it doesn't quite fit, but it just kind of makes sense when you're playing it. I also don't know exactly, but you'll get it if you play it. The other important thing to know about the vent cameras is that just like FNAF 3, every single vent can be sealed, but unlike FNAF 3, this is where our breath meter comes into play. If you have a vent closed, you will quickly start running out of air, and the more vents you have closed at the same time, the faster it depletes. If it fully depletes, you pass out and presumably die. That was a lot of fucking shit to go over, and we haven't even talked about most of the threats, so let's just get back into it. As previously mentioned, the next threats we meet are Yum and Twirly. Yum starts off in his own little space and quickly makes his way to the party hallway and into the supply closet before entering the vent on Cam 13. If we seal the vent in time, he is of course sent back. However, if he slips through, you aren't dead yet. He then makes his way into the vent on the left side of our office, and we need to flash him with our light to shoo him away. Pretty easy, but it works incredibly well in tandem with a certain other animatronic. That animatronic is not Twirly. You thought, dumbass. Twirly is our final threat on night 1, and she completes the pincer movement that the game is teaching us as she takes the front door of our office. She starts off in her very own show stage before deciding on one of 2 paths, the longer, slower path and the shorter, faster path. If she takes the long path, she will go through lobby, Kitchen B, and Kitchen A before making her way into the front hallway. If she takes the short path, she instead will go through Kitchen A directly into the front hallway. Once she makes her way there, her next move is to appear very creepily in our door window. Once we see her there, we need to shut off the power for a few seconds to make her leave. Kind of like a FNAF 2 blackout sequence, but the pose is on us to trigger it. That's pretty much it for night 1, however, and once we survive, we aren't done yet, as during the phone call for the night, we are told that we need to fix the fuses in Yum's party room, which is another sister location inspired sequence, as it forces us to screw in these fuses while surviving from Yum. He'll move down one of these 3 lanes, and once he does, there's an accompanying sound cue to tell us that we need to stop screwing with the fuses and and pay fucking attention. But yeah, once he moves, we need to flash him for a bit to force him back. After fixing all 10 of these fuses, we are done. This entire part, however, can be skipped if instead of going to Yum's party room, we simply leave the location. This can be done on every single post-night segment, and it does have an impact on the endings, so just remember that you can leave if you want for now until we go over them. This moves us on to night 2, which is mostly the same but with one additional threat in Popo. He starts off, of course, in Popo's playroom and bolts to the party room hallway straight into the vent on cam 12. From there we can either close him off to send him back or let him enter our vents on the left where we have to do nothing. We just need to ignore him. This is what I meant when I said Yum's duo. They both work in tandem insanely well, as you have to either flash the vent or ignore it, so it leaves a lot of skill in knowing where each animatronic is. The post-night minigame on night 2 has us tighten 10 loose valves on the ceiling in Twirly show stage, and while doing this she will move towards us, triggering this small sequence of her peeking down to look under the table that we hide beneath. To avoid her finding us, we need to move around and escape her gaze by having it hidden behind the chairs. Obviously again, she has sound cues to tell us when she is searching for us. Night 3 is where we get our final gameplay mix-up as the titular character Jollibee becomes a threat. He works a bit similarly to Twirly, but he starts off, again, a bit obviously, at a show stage and moves through the party hallway into the front hallway before attacking from the door. Just like Twirly, we need to shut off the power to survive his attack. And that pretty much does it for the gameplay. Yeah, not quite. Kind of forgot to mention, but we also have two smaller mechanics that aren't really related to any of the animatronics in specific, but they do start appearing right here on night 3. We have this small little virus bug that appears in one of the cameras, and we will get a flashing red triangle in the corner of our screen telling us we need to find it, click it, or else our system will crash. And we also just start getting ads randomly. These ads are something, to be frank. They are pretty funny, but they don't really do that much because you can just kind of click out of them pretty fast. Yeah, forgot to mention that, so there it is. The only difference from here on out is the nights getting quite a bit more difficult. So let's move on to the rest of the post-night minigames. Post-night 3 has us tighten 9 bolts on the monkey bars in Popo's playroom. While we do this, we are of course hunted down by him, and he will move off of his stage every once in a while, and we have to drag this cart filled with cleaning supplies in front of him so he can't get to us, because of course that will stop him. He also, just like Yum, has sound cues for when he moves. The post-night 4 minigame has us mop up Jollibee's show stage while he moves towards us, coming from either the left or the right side. He, however, is a bit harder to deal with as he doesn't produce any sound and isn't guaranteed to move back to the stage after attacking us. He can often go from the left to the right and vice versa before chilling the fuck out and returning to his stage. After we mop the floor with him, we survive the 5th night and get the final choice of the games. Go to fix Hetty or just fucking leave. If we have done all of these post-night tasks, we are simply shown what is considered the canon ending that teases the next game in the series, so let me just show it to you.
Hello, and welcome to your new career as our technician. My name is Kevin Johnson, CEO of Jolly Entertainment. This tape will serve as a quick how-to guide on operating/troubleshooting our beloved animatronics. To troubleshoot the animatronics, you can use a control panel, which can be found inside the suit when worn. Now, before you open up the animatronic, the inside mechanisms of the suit must be compressed so you can fit right inside. To switch the suit into mascot mode, click the button located on the animatronic's left neck area underneath the fabric. Great! Now the animatronic parts are tucked away, you can now go right inside and wear the suit. You are now inside the animatronic suit. Now you should be able to see the suit maintenance screen. The first step of troubleshooting the suit is to click.
You don't.
It's over. We got him.
Very well. Now on to phase 2.
Next one up has us complete every minigame but leave when we are supposed to go fix Hetty, and we actually survive in it, so here you go.
Hey there, kids, and welcome to Jollibees. Get the best food in town while watching your favorite characters play. Play with your best friend in your very own playroom. Birthdays, surprise parties, we can handle all of them. So what are you waiting for? Come on down to Jollibees right now.
The next ending I will show you is the funniest one, as it has us just not complete any of the post-night segments and it gets us fired because we're fucking lazy as shit, which is just way too real, honestly. The last one happens if we beat most but not all of the post-night minigames. Not sure exactly which ones honestly, but yeah, it gives us this ending.
This is day 1 of fixing Hetty. The purpose of these recordings is to monitor Hetty's behavior over a period of time. 5 hours have elapsed since we started and we still aren't sure why she isn't working properly. We're going to continue tomorrow. Day 2 of fixing Hetty. We were tinkering a bit on her fuse box and we're hearing strange noises coming from her voice module. The reason to this is still unknown. Day 3. She's still not working and she's acting weirder than before. Something's not right about her. The work we put into her these past few days haven't been helping much. I think we're about to pack up and report back. Hello? If you ever find this tape, do not get near her. I repeat, never go near her. She must be put down. The thing must be thrown away.
This pretty much concludes the game. The final things I have to show is night 6, which gives nothing besides a star on the main menu, the challenge modes for each of the post-night segments, and of course the custom night, which also gives us nothing besides flare on the main menu. This concludes the game and I'll go over the lore after the final game in the series, but before that I want to give my thoughts on this one. It is by far the best game to play in the series and shows the incredible growth of the dev. Are the models quite a bit less scary than the other games? Yeah, but he makes the fright factor up through the gameplay. Each animatronic is perfectly intertwined to create a really fast-paced and chaotic night that makes it hard to keep track of anything. But if you manage to keep track of the animatronics' rough positions, it gets quite a lot easier. Also, just the way that every single system is introduced on night 1, with the mix-up being Popo and a difficulty spike in Jollibee, the gameplay feels like it gets consistently harder without ever seeming too overwhelming. It's just an insanely well thought out gameplay cycle, and it even gets some of the best between night segments in any of the games. Each one feels the same, having a kind of consistent goal, but so heavily personalized to each and every animatronic that it all just feels really fucking natural. But that does it for this game, so let's just move on to the final game in the series, as this video is already gonna be way too fucking long. All in all, this will be our first and last 10
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10.
Hello? How's it going? I'm sorry I had to fill in for my night shift. You probably heard about the new shipments that just came in today. They came from the Jollibees restaurant right across the street. It's a shame they had to close down for some reason. I heard that something was stinging up the place and they had to shut it down because of health code violations. Animatronics had to be shipped for investigation. Now, this is where we come in.
Jollibees Phase 2. It continues roughly right after the first game, as we saw in the canon ending, literally saying beginning Phase 2. Its gameplay cycle is really unique, so let's just get right into it. It sucks. Yeah, it honestly just sucks. The game has a lot of systems, but I'm gonna put my thoughts in the middle of this explanation since it's just very sadly very bad. Let me just hit on every single animatronic and mechanic right away before hitting on the better parts of the game, since it's not just a purely bad experience. So firstly, we have to go over our standard office. In front of us we see the factory that we are in, and we have a rinky-dink flashlight to defend ourselves. We can wave it around and see who's there until it dies and needs to recharge. That's pretty much it. Behind us we have a desk to hide under, and it's used basically as the FNAF 2 mask and triggers somewhat of a blackout sequence. The next two parts of our office are kind of linked, but let's go over our camera system first, if you can even call it that. On this panel on our left we have a lot, to be honest, but firstly we have the standard gameplay cycle of these crates. Instead of being a survive to 6 AM type of thing, it's actually a goal oriented game akin to Pizza Sim. We need to ship off these boxes to their respective compartments from A to E. Starting with night 1 we need to ship 50, and by night 5 we gotta ship a whopping 100. Anyway, we can shut it off and start it back up anytime we want, which makes it more so a battle of endurance than ever before. Obviously the optimal way is to never shut it off, but yeah. Moving on, we obviously have our standard camera system, and the cameras in this game are honestly really bare bones. There's only 9 cameras and they're nothing special, all being named East Wing, Center Wing, Northwest Wing, blah blah. The next node on the screen is Motion Detect, which detects motion. Terrible joke, moving on. Yeah, it just kind of shows us where the fuckers are. Then we have the only thing you really need in this entire fucking game, and that's the audio. You can select one of 25 panels to play sound, and the sound will travel from you to the room you selected using the shortest possible path that it can. Obviously, since it's a lure, it lures the animatronics away. Finally, we have the hack tool, which can reroute an animatronic to make them go to a different room, which is a really creative concept that just kinda doesn't really work that well. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because everything has a durability system. On our right panel, yes, I finally got to it, we have 4 fucking different things that we need to reboot, and they're just the things that I was talking about. Our motion detectors, camera system, audio lure, and hack tool. This is a lot of information straight off the bat, but we are just getting started. This game has a lot of mechanics, but the gameplay cycle is pretty much the same, since you can play these standard 5 nights without experiencing literally anything else. This is why I'll go over our frenemies next. Night 1 has us fend off a familiar face and a brand new one at the same time in Popo. He roams around the warehouse and can be lured or hacked just like the game suggests. If he makes his way to the window and we don't flash him fast enough, you guessed it, we die. He is the simplest of the bunch, but a lot of them get quite a bit more complicated. Next up is Yum, who starts appearing on night 2, and he works exactly like Popo. Roams around the warehouse until he reaches our office window, and if we don't flash him fast enough, we just kinda die. Night 3 we get 2 more new threats. Again, not exactly new. Twirly and Hetty. Twirly roams around just like the others do and can obviously be detected by the motion detector, seen on the cameras, and even hacked. The part where she is unique, however, is her blackout sequence. Once we see her in the window, we need to hide under the desk behind us, and just like in phase 1, we have to avoid her gaze. She will eventually leave, but boy does it take some fucking time. Either way, she will leave, but it's also really important to say that it's a fake out, and we will only die when we try to keep shipping boxes if she did actually see us. This results in a very tense feeling where you never know if you're actually safe until you continue progressing, which is honestly pretty fucking scary the first time, as you think you're safe and then you're just like fucking dead. Hetty works in the exact same way, roaming around being deterred by our tools, and once she gets to the window we have to hide under the desk, but instead of avoiding her gaze, we can't let her grab us. The final threat starts on night 4. Just like every other animatronic, he can be delayed by using the hack tool and audio lure, and located by the motion detector. He also triggers a blackout like sequence where we have to hide under the desk to avoid his gaze, and he also has a fake out similar to both Twirly and Hetty. But that's pretty much it for the standard night loop, and I have to say, if you play this game normally, it is difficult, unnerving, a bit unfair, but it's actually pretty fun. Yeah, all of these mechanics actually work really fucking well together. The animatronics and the way that they interact with us in our office are really cool, albeit pretty fucking simple, but it just has so many things that fuck the entire gameplay cycle up. The hack tool is well utilized if we don't have the audio lure, but the audio lure just does the job of the hack tool, but on every single animatronic instead of a specific one. So it just makes it a bit of a worthless addition. And here is my biggest gripe of the game, and I will preface this by saying, yes, I know if the game had a little bit more time in the spotlight, it would most likely have been fixed. Once you max out the audio lure, I'll get to what I mean by max out, you can beat every single night in the game, including nights 6 and 7, without looking at anything besides the audio tab and shipping tab. And I mean easily. This isn't like a really complicated cheese strat like making Foxy disappear using a door glitch in FNAF 1. It's just so fucking easy to do. You constantly click on this one box and you just win. You have to repair like once a night. If you are very slow, you might get an interaction with one of the animatronics. It's just such a glaring issue that I don't know how was missed, since I just kind of figured it out and just did it. And by night 3, I was like, is my game bugged? Did I download this off the wrong Reddit thing? But no, in fact, I did not. I just found the god's trap for this entire fucking game. But yeah, next up, let's just go to the little bit that I skipped. Once you boot up the game, you get this small explanation that doesn't do it any justice, so let's skip through to night 2 when everything is unlocked. We have 3 tabs in the main menu of the game: a home tab, jobs tab, and a shop tab. On the home tab, we have a total of 6 systems that we can upgrade 5 times each from the home tab: our motion detectors, cameras, audio lure, hack tool, reboot, and our flashlight. Upgrading the motion detectors decreases the instability rate, aka the rate at which we need to reboot the system. The cameras upgrades also decrease the instability system, requiring us to reboot them less often. The audio lure upgrade does the exact same thing with an additional effect. This effect is what makes the game entirely fucking cheesable. It speeds up the rate the audio moves from box to box, and it is really fucking noticeable. Hack tool upgrades also reduce its instability rate and also speeds up the hacking process on the animatronics. Reboot upgrades just speed up the time it takes to reboot each system, and finally our flashlight upgrades reduce its cooldown and makes it last a tiny bit longer. These upgrades all cost $500 per level. You might be asking by now, how the fuck is money involved in this game? Well, it's pretty complicated. Yeah, it just isn't simple at all. After completing each night, we get a solid paycheck of about $1,000. This can vary a little bit depending on how many boxes we send to the wrong containers, so you should always try to get as many as you can. Additionally, if we want to make the game brain dead easy, we have the jobs tab, which houses 4 different jobs, aka minigames that can earn us some extra cash. These can also just be done infinitely, which is fun, but it just kind of defeats the purpose of the game when you can upgrade every single one of your systems to make it a lot easier if you are struggling. 4 jobs that we have available are box transportation, which has us move boxes to their proper places using a forklift; box check, which has us check logistic info and filter out boxes with incorrect data; printing, which has us print out labels and tape them on the boxes; and the final one, which is driving and has us maneuver a box transporting robot. Also, tiny thing, maneuver is spelled wrong here. Anyway, these minigames aren't all as simple as they sound. During each of these tasks, we are hunted down by animatronics, so let's start off with box transportation in a little bit more detail. During this task, we gotta lift these boxes up from down below up to the properly marked top shelf using this forklift, which is loud as shit. We can also check behind us and encounter the threat of this minigame in Popo. He will randomly appear on either the left, right, or middle, and we have to use our flashlight to make him fuck off. However, sometimes we will hear breathing once we turn around, and if this happens, we need to hold our breath and not shine the light on him, as if we do, he will get pissed and murder us. Completely normal reaction. Just listen for a second before flashing your light, and if you hear his breathing, hold your breath until the sound stops. This is a FNAF 4 inspired minigame that actually takes quite a bit of time and is another big battle of endurance. Every single job takes this approach, but this is by far the easiest one out of the bunch. The next one on the list is box check, which has us read out the info given to us and check if it matches up with the info on the boxes, and then either dispose of the box if the info is wrong or mark it as correct and move on. In the meantime, again, behind us is Yum, who will just like Popo appear on the left, right, or middle, and we need to flash him except when we hear breathing. Next job to do is printing. In the printing task, we need to stop the number cycle to match up with the one that we are shown to create the correct labels. Again, behind us we have an animatronic, and this time it is Twirly, where again, she will approach from the left, right, or middle, and we need to shine our light on her unless she is breathing, which is when we gotta stop breathing so that she doesn't forcefully stop our breathing. This is probably the hardest one, but not because of Twirly being quite aggressive, but rather the timing necessary to complete it being quite tight. I might just be bad, but I mean, yeah, I'm probably just bad. Anyway, the final minigame, Driving, has a bit more to it. We have this monitor where we use remote controls to move around some vehicle and move the boxes from the start into their correct compartments. The reason it is the most difficult / second most difficult minigame is because we actually have two motherfuckers hunting us, and they are the final two that haven't been mentioned, Hetty and Jollibee. Hetty will be inside this truck behind us, and we need to shine our light on her a bit when she moves to prevent her from escaping. If we don't catch her moving though, she will get out and kill us. A mechanic very akin to the one present in Phase 1. Jollibee, on the other hand, appears on either the left or right side of the truck, and we have to shine our light on him to make him leave. Repeat after me, unless we hear breathing, which is when we need to hold our breath. Done with the jobs, I guess. The last important thing to mention is that each one of these jobs can be done well and not so well, which can result in a very varied amount of money that we can earn. Also, as I previously mentioned, we can do these as many times as we want, and they will not progress the state of the game, aka we will not go from night 1 to 2 and so on, no matter how many times we either attempt or complete these jobs. What can I say? It's a big fucking factory, man. There's a lot of work to be done. Anyway, the final panel of our main menu is the shop panel, which houses aesthetic items that will appear on our desk during the main night sections. In total, it costs $5,500 to get all of the cosmetics and $12 grand to max out all the upgrades, adding up to a total of $17,500 doll hairs, which equates to playing about 15 nights worth of the game. That is pretty much it for this entire game, so here's a few final things about the game. It has 3 endings, which are more or less just the certificate shift from FNAF 6 without any of the lore. The incompletion ending, completion ending, and show off ending. The incompletion ending is the one you will most likely get, as it has you get at least one upgrade and beat the game. Show off has us beating the game without any upgrades, and completion has us beating the game with all of the upgrades and cosmetics. They don't really offer up much besides an extra star on the main menu. Again, after night 5 we unlock custom night, which gives us another star on the extras menu, which has some neat dev stuff, so let me just show it to you. All in all, this game has a lot of cool stuff going on if you play as intended, that is. And if you do that, it is also really fucking difficult. But because of the single worst mechanic ever known as the audio lure, we have now had 2 games ruined by them. FNAF 3 and Jollibees Phase 2. Yeah, I fucking hate the lure system. I'm a day 1 hater. I've hated it since the day Five Nights at Freddy's 3 fucking dropped. Besides that, the models look incredible and even better than in Phase 1 by having their scare factor amped up by them being broken up, shattered, and decommissioned. All in all, I give this game 6
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. In terms of the lore, there isn't that much, so let's just move on to the almost final part of our video, which is about the Redcon story. The Redcon story is just the story that was made for the continuation of Jolly Free Chapter 2. 20 years after, all the way in 2037, which still isn't here in real life, although it is getting closer by the day in the meantime of me making this, a new restaurant is opened named Jollibees, and we play as the security guard named Justin Smith. Not connected to any of the Smiths before this, it is one of the most common last names after all. He survives for a week until he is tasked to fix Hetty, and the first thing he needs to do is climb into the suit, which when it's revealed to be a trap for a far more gruesome and complicated ploy of Kevin Johnson, and he instantly fucking dies. Then blah blah, some shit happens that we don't know about, and Jollibees is closed down for some kind of health code violation that leads to the animatronics being shipped off to a factory for investigation. I am just now, as I'm recording this, realizing how similar that is to the first part of the story. Anyway, then comes in an anonymous character that is tasked with doing everything we just went over in Jollibees Phase 2, but I left out a crucial bit of info that we are shown after beating Night 5, and Kevin Johnson tells us all about what Phase 2 meant. He's slowly dying, and is desperately trying to claw his way out from the jaws of certain death. This is why the experiments were done on all of the animatronics, as in this universe, it wasn't William Afton who discovered Remnant, but most likely Kevin Johnson, who has no motivation besides being scared of death, which is actually a pretty good reason. He wanted to use them to preserve his life, and yeah, let me just let him explain shortly since we do get a cutscene of this.
Look, let's just cut to the chase here. I'm dying. I ordered Phase 1 Soul Captivation Project, and it turned out great. I'm now initiating a Phase 2 of that project, which is the test of reliability of using an animatronic robot to preserve human life. If this project works, you'll see my brain embedded to an skeleton skull. That is all. End of memo.
And of course, he succeeds.
Don't worry, everything is all in place now.
Phase 2 will begin in 3, 2, 1.
That is the entire story that was originally planned for this series, but obviously due to the copyright issues, it has now more or less been forgotten, and we have been informed that the next entry in the Jolly series will continue as if the Jollibees arc had never existed. Now, after everything, since I have already mentioned it, let's go over the freshly released demo of Jolly 4. It was released about 2 months ago at this point, which is just about how long I've been making this video, so yeah, that's the second time in a row that I have spawned a sequel by working on a video. Anyway, this demo has a lot going on right from the get-go. Firstly, we start off with a free roam segment with zero context, and we just need to make our way to the elevator, which has 8 fucking floors, which from what I understood will all be unique gameplay experiences, with the surveillance office being the thing we go back to all the time. Don't take my word on this though, I'm illiterate. The floors that are planned so far are floor 1, which is the lobby we just passed through. 2 is the floor which we will go over in detail, and moving past that is pure speculation about what is happening. The rest of the floors we don't see are the basement, company office, employee lounge, testing chambers, files, and storage, and finally the secondary storage attic. I won't dwell on this too much as this video is already about an hour longer than I intended it to be, and I don't have anything to add here, so let's just start off with our office layout for the demo right away. Holy shit, there's a lot going on. Let's start off with the things we can see right away, which is our monitor, which I'll actually go over last because it's the most complicated. There are 2 doors right here, look right or left, 2 more doors there, look behind you, and it's an elevator and a desk to hide beneath alongside our flashlight. Got all that? You didn't? Okay, I'll slow down. These 2 doors directly behind our monitor work pretty much like you would expect. The ones next to them close them, but instead of having power, they have a time limit for how long they can be closed, but there isn't a cooldown period after that, so yeah, you can pretty much just keep them closed for the entire night and live like that, but there are other threats to fuck with you. Also, I want to immediately mention this. I will be shitting on a lot of the mechanics here, but not to try and make the devs feel bad. Rather, I hope that they see this and gather some useful feedback and make Jolly 4 the best it can be, because I am awaiting it super fucking hard. I cannot wait for this fucking game, man. Another problem with the door is that they are barely fucking visible, so I would prefer them a bit more obvious, or just to have a small icon over the door buttons, because I legit didn't see them for like the first half an hour of me playing the demo. Next thing I should probably mention is that we have a flashlight which is actually unlimited and really fucking useful. You can use it for all the standard stuff, aka seeing what the fuck is at your doors and certain things to do with the animatronics. To finish up this first screen we are met with, let me mention the top left's small UI parts, We have a returning bitch in the breath meter, but this is connected with a lot of the animatronics and one of the monitor systems, so just keep it in mind for now. Besides that, we have a compass so that we know which way we are facing, like that's necessary at all. Yeah, that's just kind of there. The final UI thing we have is just the time of the night and the night number displayed in the bottom left. Now we should move on to the left and right side doors, which both work in the exact same way. They are entrances that are connected to the vents, and most of their usage is specific to the animatronics, so keep that in mind for now as well. All you really gotta know for now is that animatronics can enter through there. Behind us we have the elevator, and what this does isn't actually that specific to certain characters, but rather just serves as another entrance for the animatronics on the first floor. But important to mention is that we can send the elevator back down if necessary. The final part of our office is our desk, which we can hide under and hold our breath when necessary. You'll see soon what this is for, because once again it is directly connected to pretty much every animatronic. Now finally, let me talk about the cameras. First thing we see when we load it up is 4 different fucking tabs. The first floor tab, vent system tab, second floor tab, and the temperature tab. The first floor has 9 cameras, the vent system tab has another 6, and the second floor has another fucking 10. Jesus fuck! The cameras on floor 1 and 2 are numbered together, making it 19 different cameras, and the vent system just has its 6 numbered vents. Let's quickly go over all the cameras to give you a look into this absolutely gigantic location. On the second floor we have Upper West Hall, Upper East Hall, Conference Room 1, Conference Room 2, Office A, Office B, West Hall, East Hall, Storage Room, and Server Room. As for the first floor, however, we have Upper West Hall 1, Back Lobby 1, Back Lobby 2, Visitors Hall 1, Lower West Hall, Back Halls A, Back Halls B, Visitors Hall 2, and finally the elevator entrance. The final thing I have to mention is the temperature tab, which shows us 4 new tabs that depict the layout of the temperature controlling devices, or at least that's what I'll say they are. Either way, from here we can see the temperature of 4 areas: the attic, upper office, second floor, and first floor. Each of these has 15 accompanying boxes that we can click on. Each of them will change their color from pure black to a light blue, slowly changing to a dark blue before becoming a light red into a dark red. Each of these signalizes the state of the temperature on the given floor in ascending order. This means that if we see all black boxes, we are quite literally chilling at a cool 60 to 65 degrees. Okay. If the boxes start turning different colors, they will slowly average out the floor's temperature, which will impact our breath meter as it becomes increasingly hard to breathe inside the facility if it is hot. To prevent this, we just need to click a bunch on the boxes that have changed color to control it. We will start breathing lighter once the temperature reaches above 70 degrees. Okay. Finally, that does it for our office. Oh shit, man. I wish we were over, but there's 10 fucking new animatronics. Like, who the fuck decided this was a demo, man? Either way, we have a lot of them, so let's just tackle them one by one. First one off of the list is Good Time Maxie, and before I give my explanation, let me read out what the game tells us about her, since we do get small guides for everyone. Maxie will make her way from the first floor and climb through the vents. You must stop her from reaching the shaft below that leads to your office. If you fail to do so, your oxygen will temporarily deplete. Use the override button in the vents tab to change her path. Once she reaches one of your doors, repeatedly flash her as your last resort. A lot of info that is surprisingly useful. The only thing to add here are the paths that she will take. She goes from either the left or the right. If she starts on the right, she will go through cam 18 and cam 14 before making her way into the right side vents. If she starts on the left, she will take an inverted path going from cam 15 to cam 11 before entering the vents on the left side. Either way, we need to quickly find the camera that she is in and push this override button that appears to force her to throw herself out of these vents in between between the two paths. If she does make it into our office, however, we need to flash her repeatedly on the door which she entered, and she will slightly fuck with our breath meter. Now, just so I don't repeat myself, the exact same things I just went over work bar for Good Time George. He once more makes his debut alongside his deadly duo Maxie, but with a small change. George, unlike Maxie, does not like being repeatedly flashed, and you will just need to hold the light on him to make him go away. Third one to cross off of our list is Good Time Tweety, who gets this game's biggest bitch award, but to understand why, let me just read out her description first. Tweety will make her way from the first floor. Once she reaches the elevator door, she'll call a lift and make her way to your office. You must call the lift back down once you hear her reach your floor. If you fail to do so, you must hide at your desk and flash her accordingly. After flashing her, she will emit deadly toxins that will cause you to black out and be at risk. I know you understood none of that, so just let me reiterate. She starts off in her very own stage, which is present in between cams 12 and 13, from which she will move into cam 16 or 17, converging in cam 19. From there, she will take the elevator with an accompanying sound cue for when the elevator makes it up to our office. If we hear that sound cue and react quickly, we can send her back down by clicking on the button near the elevator, and she will return to her stage. If we fail, however, we see this game's first blackout-like sequence where she will reach down to grab us under the desk, and a small bar will appear at the bottom of our screen. We need to complete this quick time flash event on her a few times to shoo her away, and once she leaves, she will emit deadly toxins and start tackling our breath meter alongside, completely fucking over the temperature of the entire location, forcing us to work overtime to fucking fix it. In short, never let her enter. Under no circumstances can you let her enter. Moving on to the next big bad, and this one is honestly the baddest of them all. A new rendition of Antoinette and the Metalionette, all the same, known as Good Time Tal, aka Good Time Metalionette. Still fucking hate that word. Tal will come from any floor he wishes. If he decides to come from the first floor, he may climb through the vents and make his way to your east and west doors. Do not flash your light. If he decides to come from the elevator, do not call the lift down. If he decides to come from your current floor, he will make his way in either of your two front doors. Do not shut him out. It is mandatory that you hide at your desk at his presence. Listen for breathing, as this will signify to which side he'll try to grab you. Hide accordingly. This is way too much text, but it is an accurate description that I don't have much to add. He can spawn anywhere and go anywhere he pleases. He's very fucking fast, and the only things I will clarify are when he is in the vent. Absolutely do not try to override him, as this will break your override option for either way too long or for the rest of the night. I couldn't really gauge the time really well, so this is a bit of a shot in the dark for me, but yeah, it's the same thing. Second thing to mention is that once we hide under our desk, we need to listen for his breathing, which will be either on our left or right side, and we need to look in the opposite direction to prevent him from grabbing us and ripping out our fucking soul with his damn claws. Why the fuck does a children's animatronic have claws? Moving on. Good Time Jolly. Jolly will come at your two front doors. Shut him out. Simple description for a simple character. He'll start off on the second floor in the furthest room from us, either cam 1 or cam 2. If he goes from cam 1, he will move through cameras 3, 4, and 7 before appearing at our front left door, which we need to close. If he starts off in cam 2, he moves through cameras 5, 6, and 8 before attacking our front right door. That's it. Next one up is the first of the second set. Decayed Maxie. Decayed Maxie will come at random from either the server room or the storage room, heading to your side doors. Once she is in your side doors, you must hide under the table. Do not flash her at your doors. Firstly, doors is spelt with 3 O's here. Secondly, I don't really know if Maxie physically moves, as every time I check the cameras to see where she moved, after starting in cameras 9 and 10, aka the storage room and server room, she simply wouldn't be there. So I do think she just guns it to our side doors, as it also makes sense looking at the map. The problem that lies here is that we need to hide, but it isn't clear for how long, as there are absolutely 0 sound cues. Next up, Decayed George, who works in the literal exact same way, once again forming the dastardly duo. So yeah, let's just move on to Decayed Tweety. Decayed Tweety will come to your front doors. Once she's there, do not move. She takes the exact same path as Good Time Jolly can, starting off in either cam 1 or 2. If she starts in cam 1, she moves through cameras 3, 4, and 7. If she starts in cam 2, she goes through cameras 5, 6, and 8. She can attack either of the doors because of this, and we just need to look up from our monitor and do nothing. Kinda. We can still use our flashlight, which actually makes a huge difference as it allows us to see when she leaves, so yeah, not that much of a threat. The next one on the chopping block is Antoinette. Antoinette will appear in your cameras at random. You must turn away from the cameras or it will attack your camera systems. Do not switch to another camera once it is in your vision. This is our standard Phantom Balloon Boy clone, but we can exclusively move away from our monitor to prevent it from murking our camera system. This is the only animatronic in the game so far that actually can't harm us, so moving on to the final animatronic left to explain, and the only other one that can't directly harm us, Decayed Jolly. Decayed Jolly will come from the front doors. You must shut him out in a timely manner or he will jam them, risking you of anyone entering. He works exactly like Jolly, more or less, starting off in either cameras 1 or 2 and taking the same path to either of our doors. The only difference is that instead of killing us, he will block the doors so that the others can enter, just as he did all the way back in Jolly 1. Now, that finally does it for all the explaining, as the demo doesn't present us with anything for beating it. Here's a small part where I will admit that I didn't beat this 1120 mode, and I don't know if we do get something for completing it in this demo. Honestly, I don't even fucking care. It's not worth my time or my sanity. Just yet. Yeah, it is 1120 mode, as the temperature box spawn rate can also be altered in the customized selection screen, but moving on past all that, it's just really fucking hard. The final things I have to do for this entire video is critique. So let me start off with saying this demo is very promising so far, presenting the coolest and most creative models featured in the series so far. The gameplay is incredibly cool, and the one part I can give them full credit for is the UI and buttons necessary to play. I didn't mention it, but most of the movement inside the office is connected to your keyboard, whilst the camera shit is reserved for the mouse. It feels really intuitive, especially because the tab switching in the cameras is the only thing on them that uses the keyboard, and the flashlight being the only thing that uses the mouse in the office. It is a bit overwhelming, and I really hope we get some sort of phone guy, but anyway, it's time for the bad things. Alongside the crazy creative and polished models and an incredibly in-depth and complicated system, it makes for quite an interesting gameplay cycle that once perfected will work smooth as butter. Like I said, once perfected. It just isn't there yet. It feels quite empty for now, as some things just don't work as intended or need small tweaks. So here's my guide to making this game fucking slap. First of all, add either a bit more light inside of the office or just a few indicators, so that way we can actually see where we need to press shit inside the office. The doors in front of us especially are just way too hidden. Second big gripe, the current balance of the game is completely out of whack. It needs a bit more testing and a few tweaks, but I know that they will most likely make it a bit easier because it is truly too fucking hard right now. The next thing I have a major issue with is the lack of sound cues. There's a lot of ambient sounds, but there isn't really any sound tells for animatronics, which is really fucking weird. The ones that desperately need them are Decayed Maxi and Decayed George alongside Tal. I'm okay with leaving Tal without the sound cues, but then I would want the good time variants of George and Maxi to at least have a sound once they enter the vents and have it play on the left or right side to make it that smidge easier. Because honestly, this is the biggest issue of the game. It's just the lack of any fucking sound cues. It's just a really weird decision so far, and I really hope they fix it. It just needs a few tweaks and it'll be fucking amazing. Final thing to mention is that the time given to us to send the elevator back once specifically Tweety takes it up to our office is way too tight. In just a few attempts, I had multiple run-ins with me calling the elevator down the floor instantly and then just dying anyway to her, because she just got in the office in those couple of frames that I wasn't there. But finally, I'm almost done with this entire video, but the demo for now gets a solid 9
Good show! Jolly good show!
out of 10. Now, I have finally shown you absolutely everything that this series has to offer. This was a welcome journey for me, as I have never seen anything about the Jolly franchise despite being a big watcher and big participator in the FNAF community. I think this entire franchise of fan games just shows perfectly how talented and passionate the fucking community is. It's really cool to see that the developers, despite having big ups and big downs, never gave up on their initial story, and it has grown into something that I truly believe isn't worthy to be called a fan game anymore. I'll also go on record to say that a few of these games were definitely on my top 5 of the year from 2024, and I truly hope and believe that Jolly 4 will be there for 2025 if it releases this year. But I'm done with my fucking yapping, so to conclude this entire video essay, I guess, I just want to say it took a lot of time to get all this info right, gather all the footage, test all the mechanics out, and I really just hope at least one of you enjoyed this video because I try to make it as best I possibly could. I know it took me like almost 4 months to make, but I'll continue making these anyway. So if you do enjoy this type of shit, subscribe and help me make a few bucks. Now, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!